All right, we are going to get started. This is going to be a bit different than what you're used to if you've watched any of my courses, whereas those are pretty well edited for mistakes and other things. This is just going to be a live stream, so there may be some times where I am trying to get something to work or trying to figure out why something isn't working, and it's all going to be part of the fun here. So you can see what we're going to build here is a really simple site. It's actually just going to be a blog. And this is a template that I got somewhere from one of those like free template places. I don't remember what it was now, but I didn't design this. It's purely for demonstration purposes only. But as you can see, it has a really simple layout here. And someone's saying the sound's low. Let me turn that up a little bit, see if that helps. All right. So I turn the sound up a little bit. Hopefully that'll help. Thank you, Buzz, for chiming in there. So a really simple layout for a blog. And this is what we're going to do. There's also an about page. And we'll see if we can get to some sort of categories page as well. But that's the basic gist of this. Let's see, a couple notes. What else? We're going to use Craft 3. So whatever the latest RC is, the release candidate, I think it's 6 is what it is. And so I'm just going to walk step by step here. I'm keeping an eye on the chat over here in my iPad here next to me, so I'll glance over occasionally. So if there's something going on, if you have a question, or if you are wondering why I did something a certain way, or maybe I forgot something, which happens quite a bit, then you can chime in here on the chat. So this is my first Twitch live stream, so kind of figuring this out as I go. Hopefully everything looks okay, and we can try to make this all happen here. All right, so let's go ahead and get going here. So first thing I want to do is, of course, install Craft. And I don't have anything installed yet. In my project directory here, I have 2 directories. One is the site directory, which is empty right now. That's where we're going to actually build the site. And the other one is the source directory. And this is the source files for like the static HTML templates that we'll base this site on. And just laughing at Simon's comment about my hair. It was actually worse yesterday because it was actually a fresher cut. And when I was doing a video test, I certainly was shining a bit too much in the light. So, but this is like a 2 or 3 day old cut here. So so here we are in the source with all our static templates. So that's what we're working with here. We'll mainly be working inside of site. So I'm just going to go ahead and open these up in Sublime Text. Let me just drag this over to my broadcast window here. And so we can access the site and the source quickly within the same window. All right, so back here, let's go ahead and go into site, and we're going to install Craft. Now, because we are using Craft 3 RC, we're going to use Composer to install it using the create project command, and that would be Craft CMS / Craft. We're going to use the release candidate, whatever the latest is, I think it's 6, and install Craft that way. So this is the cool part about a live stream, is that I can't edit out actually how long it takes to install this stuff. So Craft is, we're fetching that Craft project, and it's going to install Craft and then go through, and Composer will then download all of the dependencies, which is what you see here. All right. And once we see this Craft new install, we are ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and keep with the command line and just do the setup command using the Craft command line tool. So we do /craft setup, and we just jump into our setup routine. In this case, we're going to use MySQL or MySQL. We have a local database and the standard port. Our username is root, and our no password, and our database is crafty blog. And we'll not use a prefix for this one. All right, so I was able to validate my credentials, which means I put them in right, and also means my database server is running. And we are ready to install Craft. So one thing to note is that what's in the brackets here, when it's a single thing like that, that's the default. So we can just hit enter to accept it. Put in our name, a password, and another one. And we're going to host this at craftyblog.dev. And there we go. Now we are installing Craft. Getting all those tables populated and created. And we have a success message. So everything went well. All right, let's take a look here and see what we got. So as you can see, we have our Craft command here, and we have a couple other directories like storage and modules and templates and vendor, which is now where all of the code is, including the Craft application code, and then our config directory, and then web. Now I'm going to go into web because web is our public directory, which changed from Craft 2. And I'm going to go in here and go ahead and link this up so I can run this as a local host. I'm using a tool called Valet, which is from the people that make Laravel. And I just need to do Valet link, and then what I want to link it as, Crafty Blog, and it'll link this current working directory as craftyblog.dev. So as you can see, it's now linked that. So I should be able to access that now, but first I want to secure it. So we do valet secure Crafty Blog, and this will generate a SSL certificate or not SSL, whatever, generate a secure certificate and then restart PHP Nginx so that I can now access that at the secure URL. All right, there we go. A TLS certificate is what I meant to say. All right, so now let me go to my browser and see if that is working. So if I go to craftyblog.dev. All right, so this looks like it's wrong, but it's actually right. So we are getting a 404 from Yi, but it is showing me that it is the hosting, local hosting is working, and that it is hitting Craft, because if I do go to /admin, I get my Crafty Blog login. And notice we didn't do any setup right here in the browser. We did it all from the command line. So here we are. We're all set up and ready to go to create some of our first bits for the site here. So this is a pretty straightforward site. We're going to work first in the control panel, and then we'll jump in and work on the templates as well. For those of you talking about Composer, if you haven't tried using Composer yet, it actually can be really powerful. There is a bit to learn with it, and you definitely have to kind of go all in on that tooling. And I'm with you in terms of the whole mess of tooling that we have right now. But I found it really handy. I only have one site right now on Craft 3 in production, but I did enjoy deploying it, and I do enjoy having my repository be much leaner because you're not storing all the application code in your repository. Just as an aside. So let's go ahead and jump in. So first things first, I'm going to go to settings, since this is where we're really going to spend most of our time, and start with the sections. Since this is a blog, really the main thing here is the blog section. Not a lot of decisions to make on this one. That's why I've built this as a simple site. We're going to make this a channel. And then for our settings, I could do like blog / and then the slug of an entry, but that seems to be just a bit too much. I'm just going to have the slug at the root of the site. And then for the template, we'll do blog _ entry is fine. One thing I like to do is go in and actually create the templates and the template folders as I am setting it up. So that way I don't have to go back and do it again. So what did I say? _entry.twig. I like to use .twig because it's what the files are. And also in Sublime Text here, it automatically triggers my Craft and Twig syntax highlighting. All right, so blog _ entry and slug. So we'll save that. So we have our first section. And that's going to hold our entries. And it's going to hold, yeah, that's it. So let's go ahead and think about what else we need to do here. That's the most obvious one. Of course, I need to do something for the home page. I like to create singles for my home pages. So we'll just call this home page. This will be a single section type. And the URI will just be a /. And we'll just do index.twig for the template, which would be an index.twig file. Actually, that can just be index. Index.twig file in the template directory root. And we should already have that in there. No, maybe we don't. So do index.twig, and we'll call this the home page, like that. Now, before I get too far, one thing I do want to do is start to version control this. Now, this is a sample project, but for a normal project, I would want to version control it too. So let's go ahead and actually take care of that really quick before I forget. So I'm in the site directory. So I'm going to initialize a repository in that directory. And then I'm going to add a remote to this. I already have this set up. And I'm going to go ahead and add everything. And we'll just do our standard initial commit message. There we go. And we'll just push that up to our origin server. Great. Now at this point, I typically would branch into like a develop branch and work from that. So we'll do that. And we'll push that up as well. All right, so now we have our code version controlled. So as I'm working on this project, I can make commits as I go, keep my code nice and safe and secure. So back into our section here. So we have our home page. Let's go ahead and test that as well. If I go to craftyblog.dev. All right, now I get my home page here. I know that it's rendering properly and accessing that template. Let's see. We have a question. Are there pros and cons to using Twig versus HTML for the templates? From my perspective, it doesn't matter. I don't know if there's any like performance considerations. But as has been mentioned here, is that oh, thank you. Let me actually take that off. 1 second. Someone was saying it's blocking my where I'm typing here. Let me switch. There we go. All right, that should be better for you. So Twig versus HTML, I prefer Twig only because it's just easy for syntax highlighting. Like HTML could be so many things. It could be static templates. It could be so many things. And I like the idea of thinking about Twig as pieces of a like a final HTML document. And so I think about it that way, where if I'm creating Twig, it's a piece of something that's going to be turned into an HTML document, where then I always think about HTML documents as being, like the whole thing that's presented in the browser. All right. So let's go ahead and keep going then. So we got the home page going. We have the blog section, and the other one is the about section as well, or the about page. We can probably, with these kind of pages, it really depends on how it's going to be used. Like, would this be, where you're going to have multiple of these sort of, content pages, like about, terms of service, things like that, that are all going to share the same layout? In that case, I would probably create like a structure, all use the same template. If about is going to have some sort of special content requirements, maybe it has like, some information about, or some sort of more complex, type of content, maybe you need to use a matrix, then I would want to create a single for that so it can have its own special publish layout. In this case, I'm probably going to just create a single for about, but I don't know what to think about that. But we're going to jump to that later. I want to first do the home page and then all of the entry templates, or the entry template. Oop. So let's go back in and see what we got. Let's create our fields as the next thing. So I'm going to go into fields. I'm going to create a new group called blog. I like to organize my fields by the section if I can. We now have this default common field group, which is nice to have. There are some things that are common. I also try to create as many generic fields as I can, so I don't have to create the same types of fields over and over again. But in this case, we'll keep it simple. I'll create a field group called blog. And for our fields, what do we need? Well, in a single entry is where I want to look. I have a title. I have this little like teaser excerpt thing. And then I have the content. This isn't representative of the content we're going to create, but we just have content. So I have title. Of course, we all know that we get a title automatically from Craft, so I don't have to worry about that. I do want to create a, like an intro or something, or a teaser here, and then the actual content itself. Everything else, like, the byline and stuff, we get that automatically with a Craft entry. So let's create the blog introduction first, and we can give it some instructions. And then the field type is going to be plain text. And the reason I'm choosing plain text is because if I look at the markup for this, or even if you just look at the presentation here, this needs to be pretty well controlled. And in this case, this subheading is in an H2. So I definitely want this to be plain text because it needs to be pretty well controlled in terms of what people can do. So do plain text, and there's only so much that someone can mess up when they're entering the content. So we'll make that plain text. I'm not going to limit characters, and I won't allow line breaks. That'll be too much for this layout. And then the next one is the blog. Let's call it body. And for that, I think I want to use a rich text editor. And this is where, between Craft 2 and Craft 3, where I always forget that the rich text editors aren't included. So I'm just going to save that as plain text for right now. Hop over to the plugin store. I'm going to use CK editor since it's just the first thing that came to my head, and install that. All right, so now we have CK editor installed. If I go to plugins, I should see it here, installed and enabled. So let's go back to our field, to the body. Change this to CK editor. There we go. Now we have CK editor created. Questions about blocking, having issues using .dev. I've had all sorts of craziness with like Safari actually accepting valid or accepting self-signed certificates. And I've actually had to, for some of them, especially I'm using like MAMP Pro, I've actually had to drag those certificates into my keychain tool on macOS and then say just like trust these, like always trust. And then it works. You have to kind of like manually override them. I don't know if that's the best way to go, but that's the way that I've been trying to deal with it. It works fine with Valet. I don't have that problem. I think Valet might sign them as to always trust. But when you create an SSL, a self-signed SSL cert inside of MAMP Pro, it doesn't seem to work. But I am able to still use dev. I just run everything SSL locally in staging servers. Obviously on production, I just do SSL sort of up and down the chain the whole way now. I don't even bother with non-SSL since in production it's going to be SSL anyway, so I might as well be testing that the entire way. All right, so we have our body and our introduction, and now I need to go into my section and to my entry type. We're just going to have a single entry type right now. A blog is actually a really good place to think about like multiple entry types. I know on my blog I have like, you know, full posts. Let's see if I can pull that up. I have full posts, little like updates in these gray boxes, and then these link like posts as well. I'm trying to find here's a full post right here. And those could be different entry types. I actually think they are. So this is like a future topic, but this site is running Craft on the back end as headless, and then using Vue.js as the front end stuff, and it's pulling it in via the Element API. But that's actually a topic for a whole nother course. But yeah, so entry types, we're just gonna have one here, but this is a great opportunity if you're doing a blog, even for yourself or for your company, where you could do multiple entry types, if multiple entry types haven't really been a thing that have made sense for you yet. So I'm going to drag up this group. So the nice thing about grouping is I can just grab the tab and drag it up, reorder introduction so it goes first, and then save that. And then we're going to test here. Going to create a new blog entry. Little introduction, blogging like it's 1999. And we'll add some text here. This little snippet here is a text expander snippet I have where I can put out varying number of paragraphs of lorem ipsum just to quickly save things. And we'll save it. So there we are, my first blog entry. So that is all set up. All right, so let's now think about what we are going to do for the About section. Now that I think about it, I think I'm going to create a structure. Right now I only have an About page, but I may want to do other things on this. So we'll go ahead and create a structure for that. So let's go into Settings, Sections, New Section. This will just be called Pages, which is just a generic name that I use. Call it Structure. And then for the URI, this is where, if you want root level URIs for your pages, like /about, /terms, so forth, just have slug in there. And then pages underscore entry is a good template for that. So I do want to go in and create a new directory for pages, and then a new template underscore entry.twig. So this is pages. All right, so now let's go ahead and create some fields. So we'll create a new group, a new field, and in this case, it's probably just going to be like a single field of rich text. So we'll just call it page copy. We'll use CK editor again and save it, and then go into our entry type for pages. Another great opportunity to use multiple entry types. Just have a single pages section where you can have different page layouts. Now the thing is, like when you are creating a section, you're assigning a single template that it's going to use for those entries. But you can key off of that entry type and check it in the template and then include a different layout depending on what entry type it is. So those entry types could be a lot of flexibility. So, I want to show that. So I'll say page title, and we'll just drag that up and then save it. All right, so now I can go to pages and I'll create my first page, which is my about page. Just add in some copy and save it. There we go. Now we are in a structure, so we can nest and do all that fun stuff if we want. All right, so very quickly we have our basics of our site set up. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. I believe that is everything. If I did forget something, I'll figure it out pretty quickly. Let's go ahead and look at our static templates. So our static templates are right here in our source directory. I'm going to need to grab my assets as well. So let me do that too really quick here. Oops. Let's grab this. I'm just going to do it really quick. All right, so I need CSS, images, JavaScript. Probably don't really need JavaScript, but we'll just grab all this stuff. There we go, and drop it into site and then web. All right. So now actually, let me just, before I do anything, let me just kind of check my work here. Stage. We're going to stage all of this stuff and just commit site assets. There we go. And we'll just push that up. All right, so now we have that nice and secure up on our Git origin server. And I can look at, oops, I actually did that in source by accident. There we go. Oh, cool. Okay, we're good. All right. So let me go in my source here and grab, I always start with the home page. Let me grab the whole home page here, copy that, go into my index template, paste it in, and I'm just going to make these here so I don't get any issues later on, because I'm going to have these all broken out into a layout, but just make sure these all render properly down the road. Good, we might lose some images at some point, but we'll see. All right, so if I go to craftyblog.dev, which is here. All right, awesome. So now we're seeing our template being rendered. Looks like we're done, but we're not done. This is just the static template here. But now I'm ready to go in and light this up and bring it to life using some code. But before that, I do want to clean up this template a little bit, since we're going to be reusing a lot of this header stuff, all this reused code, basically down to nav here. I'm going to grab that and then create a new folder. Actually, we're just going to create a file. This is a pretty simple site. So I'm just going to do _layout.twig. I'm just going to have a single layout. And I'll go back and get everything below here, all the way up to I guess the footer is probably a good spot. Yeah. We'll grab that and put it in the layout. So it's from here to there. All right, great. And of course, this is where we want to define a block. Oop, we are not getting our help from Sublime here. There we go. This is where we want to define a block. Going to call this, we'll just call it main. Is fine for now. So we're going to override that from our templates. And here, of course, we need to, so it keeps defaulting this as a view component, which is not what we want. So extends underscore layout. And of course, we need to define our block and wrap whatever we want to override with. Called it main. Go all the way down. Oops. This is a really simple setup. If you probably might have done more complex setups. The flexible twig templates and craft course that I have, that I worked on with Anthony Colangelo, that's more of a more dynamic sort of setup for templates. This is going to be pretty straightforward here. We are extending the layout, and then we're just defining the main block, which is going to override this main block in our layout template. So everything should look the same when I go back to the browser. Let's see if I broke anything. Ah, perfect. Still looks good. Now let's focus on our content area here. So in our index template, I'm looking here, this is a post title, all right? So it looks like I'm just trying to find what the posts are wrapped in. So it looks like a div of post preview. Sorry, so it's this right here. All right, this is where we're going to start then looping. So we're going to grab our entries in craft.entries.section. This will be blog. And I'm going to limit this to 10 since it's on the home page here. And then we call .all because remember this is craft 3. And I can then go down to here, posted by, I guess I'll include that horizontal rule and then do end 4. And after that, I can start to populate this with dynamic content. The permalink to the post will just be via entry.url. The post title, of course, is entry.title. The subtitle, I believe I called this entry.blog introduction. Probably should have called it subtitle since that's what it is in the markup. And typo. And then this is all of that rich text content from the CK editor. So we can just trash all this. Go up here and put in entry.blog body. All right, so for posted by Ryan, this can be entry.author. We'll try that, see what we get. And then for the date, entry.post date. And of course, now I have to remember my formatting, which I won't be able to remember off the top of my head, so I'll have to look that up in a second. All right. Let me reload, see what I got here. Got an error. Oh yeah, all right, so couldn't be converted to a string. So let's see. Go and just check something really quick. Let me just, I think I can do, actually, let me just leave that up for 1 second. All right, just so I can keep moving here without an error. Great. So my first blog entry, blogging like it's 1999. I click on it. I get brought to slash and then the slug. And then blogging like it's 1999 is my subtitle. And then here's all the text I put in. And you see it's posted by admin. The reason it says admin is because in my user account for the site, I did not populate my first name and last name yet. So I do that right now. And then you can see it'll change to Ryan Ireland. And then I just need to figure out my date formatting. And we can figure that out in a second. But let me go ahead and clean this up first. So one thing I always forget are the date formatting. No matter what system I use, I always have to look it up. So we're going to get rid of all this static content here, since this is going to iterate over that same markup every single time. All right. I think that is good like that. Let me check it. Oops. There we go. All right, I got 2 horizontal rules. Oh, I see. So it's, yeah. Perfect. All right. The older post thing, not sure if we'll get to that today. I think I'm going to do actually a follow-up on this where I make some enhancements and then also do a like a deployment as well of Craft 3. Thank you, Brienne121. Save me with the date filter. I always have to look up the formatting, the MDY piece. So let me update that. So entry, not podcast. That would be something completely different than what we're doing here. Post date, and then we use the date filter here. We'll do don't need a comma after that, dy. There we go. That's not the right one. There it is. All right, great. That gives me the short month. You know what I always forget is the long month. That's the one I always second guess on is the long month. All right, so we have our home page. So let me just add another blog post, because sometimes what happens is you get all super confident in your implementation, and then either you or your client goes to add more content than your test content, and things blow up. All right, so let's save that. Another thing that should work now is our live preview. Oh, actually it won't. I don't have that template set up yet, so let's close that. So there we go. So we get our reverse chronological order here automatically. All right, so we got our blog up and running. Didn't take any time at all, right? We are ready to go. So let's do the single entry here. So when we get to /my second blog post, we need to code that. And in our static templates again, we have one called post. So we'll grab that and drop it into blog_entry. Now, if I was smart, I would have only grabbed what I actually needed. But I'm not, so I need to go ahead and just clean this up really quick. So we're going all the way up to footer. And then at the top, we're going to go all the way down to the end of nav. That's not what we want. There we go. Let's see, page header. Went too far. There we go, nav. So I want to first, that's kind of frustrating that it keeps going to a view component for this when it's .twig. So I want to extend the underscore layout template and then define my block. Let's go down. Now remind me after this, once I'm done with this template, it's really a good time to commit my work. So now let's go ahead and code this up. Now, since we are in a single entry view, I get that entry object automatically, so I can just start to populate using that. So that's what I'm going to do here. Entry.blog introduction. Awful field name. I probably should have named it something else. This will be entry.author. And then for the date, I am going to go back here and do what I always do, which is steal the one that I just had and use that. All right. And then this down here is all the content. There's a ton of content that I have to get rid of now. Let's see. Let's go up. I like really content-rich static templates because it, especially if they're done by someone that's working from the designs or from wireframes or from content requirements, because they help you understand what's going on, but it gets annoying to have to remove all that stuff. So entry.blog body is our field there. All right, and that is everything. Let me check my work, reload. There we go, my second blog post. And we have the timestamp there and all of my content right there. All right. One thing, let's see, that we are missing is we're not updating the title in our title tag. So our tab just has that same name. So it's something that we would want to do. But otherwise, I want to move on and get my page done as well. So let's look at that. So if I go to site source, I had a one here called about.html. I'm going to grab that. We're going to use that as our generic page template here. And same mistake as last time. Grab that. And then go all the way down and get rid of this. All the way through nav. Extends layout. I'm going to define our block called main and drop that in. So if I go to, it's my static site, if I go to slash about, all right, good. We get our about page with some sample content. So let's go ahead and bring that to life. So first thing I'm going to do is do entry.title. I don't think I have a subtitle for this. Let me just comment that out for now. And then for our content, that goes here. I believe I used page copy was the field. You guys able to remember the fields all the time? Or do you always have to look back? Page copy. Hey Jake, thanks for coming out to the live stream. I'm trying to focus on the build, and so I'm a little bit behind on chat. So if anyone posts something really important, go ahead and repost. All right, so page copy. Let me check my work. Reload. All right, there we go. So now we have our about page. So of course I could create, all sorts of about pages at this point. I could go into pages and, do about, like location is always a favorite one that I like to do, like that, and assign it a parent of about. There we go. So I could go to /about/location. And, oh, interesting, is not, I know why. This is a setting issue. So it's trying to actually look for the slash about and then location. It's actually looking for the template at about location because this doesn't match any URI pattern that we set up. But I can remedy that by going into my settings. And this is something that's changed from Craft 2 to my sections, to pages, and do parent.uri and then slash slug. And that should work. And it should ignore if there is no parent. Oh, interesting. I wonder why that didn't work. Let's see. Oh, I did URL. That would be one reason it didn't work. There we go. There we go. So now we got us. Now we got location is working. That background there is because the image is missing from the template. But that's something we can change. Maybe actually what you could do is add in a new field for a header background image, so that way on every page you could have a different image. I've done that on projects before. Pretty straightforward stuff. All right, so we have, let's look at our site really quick. So if I go to the home page, don't have my nav linked up, I should do that. I can click on a post and get everything, and then I can go to an about page and see my structure section. So all in all, this is a pretty simple, but most importantly, functional site we already have. So I'm just gonna look at my nav here. All sorts of ways of doing nav, since I might want to generate this dynamically at some point. Oh, one thing we didn't do is categories, no? To think about that. So let's see, I think that is everything. Oh, I still have Crafty blog, which is up here somewhere. There it is. I'll just make that slash. It's the fastest way to do it right now. There we go. So at least I can now click around a little bit here. So I don't have anything for categories yet. Let me go ahead and actually set up some categories for my blog entries. So we'll create a new group. Let's call this blog. For the URI format, it'll be blog/category. Let's just do categories/slug is probably better. Blog_category is a good template. So if I go into here, create a new file, _category .twig, this will be the category template. All right, so now we have our categories set up. We can manage them. Let's create a new one. Personal we'll do, and let's do Craft CMS. All right, so we have two categories in our blog category group. Now let's allow these to be assigned to a blog entry, and we do need to do that via a field. So we'll call this category. What kind of field type is categories? The source is blog. Limit the number of selectable category branches. This is all fine. We can leave it default. And now I need to go and assign that via my entry type. And let's add that right there and save it. Now if I go back to my blog entries, you can see now we can add a category. Select it and save. All right, so now we have a category added as well. All right. Thank you for the parent URI fix Rias 500. I appreciate that. I caught it before I caught it on the chat, but that's one of those things I probably would have spun my wheels on for a while since I typed that so fast. All right, let's see. So what's next? Oh, let's output the categories really quick here. So I'm going to go into blog entries. Where would I put those? Posted by Ryan on, we'll just do under like the category. So how should we do this? Anybody have any ideas what we should do? Just leave it here. It's probably good enough, right? Oops. There we go. Make sure that. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Maybe I was working in a single entry. Whoops, what did I do wrong? Let's see. Oh, thank you. Rias 500 again. There we go. Craft CMS right there. And perfect. So let me just fix that. See, it's always the small things here. So under, see, on, I'll just do in for as like filed in. That'd be good for now. And I probably want to then go ahead and link this as well. Right? Man, I haven't built a blog in Craft in a long time. This is kind of forget all the little pieces here. So that's linked. So that would link off to like something like categories. What did we say? Like category.slug. I guess that's a valid way of doing it, right? Yeah, that's probably works. Ah, perfect. Okay, it did work. So it's a good guess. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and populate that, and then here when we get to the category page, this one here, this would be like a listing of entries. It would basically be the home page all over again, essentially, with a listing for that category is what we would do there. All right, so that's what we have. Let me go ahead and look at my Git status here. So we have some changes. And I'm just gonna kind of do, don't see this as a Git tutorial, but we're just gonna do some initial template work. All right, and then push that up. Aha, Rias said category URL. Let's see. Thank you. I actually haven't done categories much. It's funny. Where did I do that in? I think it was in this one. Yeah, that way, see, I'm hard coding something here that is actually already set. So was a silly thing, category.url. let's take what Craft gives us. All right, there we go. Great, same thing, perfect. All right, so now we have a pretty basic but mostly working site. There's a couple things I wanna do here. I want to definitely get this categories template done at some point, where I want to make this some sort of like listing of all the categories so someone can kind of go through them. And then also with categories, when you click here, I want to have a listing here. And then also when we do, well, social stuff doesn't matter. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, on the pages. So I would like to have images in this header here. So when I go to /locations, that we can have, location. There we go. When we go to /location, that we can have a different image here as well. So, all right. But I think that's all I'm going to do for today, since we're hitting about an hour, and I think that's probably a good time. So if this was interesting and helpful, then I really want to go ahead and do another version of this. And in that version, I want to go ahead and do those enhancements that I just talked about, and then also talk about like deploying this, like deploying a Craft 3 site up to, we have it in version control, but then going from that to, let's say like a simple, instance on AWS via like Laravel Forge or something like that. It's hard to do deployment stuff because everybody's situation is different. Everybody has different hosting. Everybody uses different tools, but at least I can show one way of how we can do that. All right, so that is it for this time. If anyone has any questions, I'm going to stay in the chat for a little bit. Simon says, please make more mistakes so I feel more comfortable. Simon, yeah, that's actually one of the reasons I'm doing this is to be able to, sort of do this stuff and make mistakes. I don't leave a lot of mistakes in my like courses that I sell because I don't want to waste people's time with a ton of like mistakes and stuff. So I tend to take those out, but I definitely do make mistakes. Let's see, any update on the Craft 3 multi-site documentation? Oh, do you mean because that's still unlinked in the docs and it's not there? Yeah, I have to work on that. I owe that to the team. So I will work on that. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out. I appreciate it. I'm going to hang in the chat here for a little bit, and I'll just leave the thing up. But this is actually like the end here. So if anybody wants to hang out, you're more than welcome. And I'll see you on the next video. I'll send another email and add it as an event here on the Twitch channel if you want to hang out. And I'll see you guys later.